So what if the reason you aren't getting any faster is actually because you're running way too hard?
Yeah, no, it sounds completely counterintuitive, right?
Right.
We are totally conditioned to believe that input always equals output.
Right.
You push harder, you sweat a lot, you suffer a bit, and therefore you improve.
Right.
But human biology just doesn't operate like a simple math equation.
Which is wild. And welcome to our deep dive. Today, we're taking a really customized journey into the science of endurance training, and this is specifically for you.
Yeah.
Whether you're an everyday athlete, a hybrid fitness enthusiast, juggling weights and cardio, or just a dedicated weekend warrior trying to crush a local 5K.
Exactly.
Our mission today is to answer one fundamental question, which is exactly how hard should you be pushing during your workout?
And we actually have a really fascinating stack of sources to unpack to answer that.
Oh, yeah?
We'll be looking at this massive 2024 meta-analysis by Varela Sands and colleagues, the famous 2014 Stuggle study that basically turned the endurance world upside down.
Yeah, and the whole goal here is to act as your practical decision-making guide. We are going to just bypass all that dense academic jargon and give you a relatable roadmap.
Definitely.
By the end of this deep dive, you'll be able to look at your own weekly schedule, whether you have like 4 hours to train or 10 hours, and pick the exact right training model.
Right.
So we're going to explore the polarized, pyramidal, and threshold models and show you how to avoid that awful trap of chronic lingering fatigue.
So let's start by just clearing away the academic clutter. Because if you open up any of these research papers, you are immediately assaulted by terms like, ventilatory thresholds, LT1, LT2, and these incredibly complex cellular metabolic pathways.
Oh, yeah, let's totally ditch all of that. We need a shared, simple language to even talk about this stuff. So we're going to use a really basic three-zone system based entirely on real-world feel. Zone 1 is your easy or conversational pace.
Right, exactly.
If you're in Zone 1, you can speak in full sentences about your weekend plans without gasping for breath.
Right. And then there is zone 2,
Yeah.
which we'll call comfortably hard or tempo pace.
Yeah.
You can maybe force a few words out, but you absolutely do not want to be having a full conversation. You are working and you definitely feel the effort.
And finally, Zone 3 is your all-out sprint. You're gasping for air, your lungs are burning, and it's just this severe red line effort.
Exactly.
So easy, comfortably hard, and all out. Now that we have those buckets, we have to talk about the trap that almost everyone falls into.
Yeah, the Sensei guide calls it the gray zone trap,
The gray zone.
which is essentially zone 2. What the data reveals is that most non-elite athletes accidentally just drift into this comfortably hard zone for almost all of their workouts.
Yeah, because Zone 1 feels, frankly, embarrassingly slow sometimes.
Oh, completely.
And Zone 3 just hurts way too much. So you go out for an easy 45-minute jog, but the weather is nice, you've got a good playlist going, and naturally you just speed up a little bit.
Right. You get into a rhythm.
Yeah, and suddenly you aren't conversational anymore. You're in Zone 2.
Or you head to the track with the intention of doing this brutal sprint workout.
Right.
But the sheer systemic pain of true zone 3 effort is so high that your brain sort of subconsciously makes you back off just a fraction.
Wow, yeah.
So you think you're sprinting, but physiologically you've actually slipped back down into the top end of zone 2.
I want to try an analogy here to explain why this is so bad.
Sure, go for it.
Think about your daily energy tank like a smartphone battery or even a daily budget. If you constantly spend a moderate amount of money, which is Zone 2 every single day, your budget is completely drained when you finally need to make a big purchase.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Right, like when you actually need to sprint or run a race, the result is you're chronically tired, you've spent all your money, but you aren't actually getting any faster.
The physiology aligns perfectly with that budget analogy. Because when you spend all your time in zone 2, you're constantly triggering your autonomic nervous system's fight or flight response.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you're dumping cortisol and stress hormones into your bloodstream constantly. But because you aren't going all out, you aren't recruiting your highest threshold fast twitch muscle fibers.
Right.
And you aren't actually forcing your heart to adapt to its maximum stroke volume either.
So you basically get all the systemic stress of a hard workout, but none of the high-end biological adaptations of a true sprint.
Exactly. You are just perpetually accumulating fatigue. You wake up the next day, your battery's at 20%, and you go do it all again.
That sounds miserable.
It is. You feel like you are working incredibly hard because Well, you're sweating and breathing heavy, but your actual race times never improve.
So if the comfortably hard middle ground is this physiological trap, then the first training model we really need to look at is the one that actively avoids the middle entirely. And this is the polarized training model. It's effectively the antidote to the gray zone.
Right. The polarized model takes your training volume and pushes it to the absolute extremes.
Okay.
It relies on a very specific distribution of your training time. So in a strict polarized setup, you spend 75 to 85% of your total training time in zone 1.
Wow, so that purely conversational, easy aerobic pace?
Exactly.
Wait, hold on. Let me look at the rest of these matrix numbers because they seem kind of wild.
Go ahead.
The matrix says zone 2, that threshold tempo pace, is restricted to just 0 to 5% of your time.
Yep, 0 to 5%.
And zone 3, the all-out high intensity, makes up the remaining 15 to 20%.
That's right.
0 to 5% in zone 2. That just can't be right. I mean, every time I go out for a run or see people at the local park, they're living entirely in zone 2. Are you saying the default human pace is actually scientifically the worst one to train in?
It's a massive paradigm shift, which is exactly why the 2014 Stogel study caused such an uproar in the sports science community.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, Stogel and Sperlich took 48 well-trained endurance athletes and divided them into different training protocols for 9 weeks.
Okay.
The group that followed this strict polarized model, the ones who avoided zone 2 almost entirely, absolutely crushed the other groups in performance metrics.
Seriously, what kind of improvements did they actually see in just 9 weeks?
Well, the polarized group saw an 11.7% increase in their VO2 max.
Oh, wow. For the listener who might be a little fuzzy on that term, let's break down VO2 max really quickly.
Sure.
That's essentially the maximum amount of oxygen your body can physically utilize during intense exercise, right? Like the raw size of your aerobic engine.
Exactly. It's pretty much the gold standard metric for cardiovascular fitness.
Right.
And moving the needle on VO2 max by nearly 12% in athletes who are already highly trained in just over 2 months is phenomenal.
That's huge.
So the primary benefit of the polarized model is that it is unparalleled for maxing out raw speed and aerobic capacity.
But why does that work? Let's dig into the mechanism here. If I'm spending nearly 20% of my week doing all-out, lung-burning sprints, my legs are going to be completely wrecked. I feel like this model would just destroy your nervous system.
Well, the secret lies in that 85% of easy time.
Okay.
Because you are going so incredibly slow on your easy days, your systemic fatigue actually remains low to moderate overall.
Oh, that makes sense.
Your body is actively recovering during those zone 1 sessions. You're promoting blood flow without accumulating that central nervous system fatigue.
So when it's finally time to sprint, your engine is fully primed.
Exactly. You show up to that zone 3 workout with a fully charged battery.
Right.
Because you're fresh, you can push your heart rate to its absolute maximum limit, forcing the heart muscle to stretch and pump more blood per beat. That's the stroke volume adaptation we talked about.
Yeah.
And you only get that adaptation if you are truly at your maximum, which is frankly impossible if you're carrying residual fatigue from a bunch of zone 2 runs earlier in the week.
That makes total sense. You can only hit the ceiling if you're starting from a fully rested floor.
Exactly.
So looking at the profile of our listener, who is this model an ideal fit for?
Well, the polarized model is designed for high-volume athletes. We are talking about people training more than 8 hours a week.
Wow, okay.
When you have that much volume, you simply cannot survive spending large portions of it in zone 2.
Right, you'd burn out.
Exactly. Elite athletes also rely heavily on this model right before a major race during their peaking phase when they need that razor-sharp top-end speed and really want to shed any lingering fatigue.
But wait, if you never run in zone 2, what happens when you sign up for, say, a half marathon or a long triathlon? Because most everyday athletes are going to run those actual races entirely in zone 2. It seems kind of crazy to never practice the pace you're actually going to compete at.
And that is a great point. The scientific literature wrestles with that exact paradox.
Yeah.
Which brings us perfectly to the second framework, the pyramidal model.
Okay, let's look at the distribution for pyramidal. It reshapes the middle.
It does.
We have zone 1 sitting at 60 to 70%. Then zone 2, that comfortably hard tempo pace, jumps way up to 20 to 25%.
Yeah.
And zone 3, the high intensity, drops down to just 5 to 10%. So it really looks like a pyramid, you know? A wide, easy base, a moderate middle, and a tiny peak of high intensity.
Right, and the 2024 Verlison's meta-analysis provides some critical insights into why this model is so prevalent.
Okay, what do they say?
When you look at sub-elite and recreational athletes, the pyramidal model holds up incredibly well against polarized training.
Really?
Yeah, the primary benefit is that it directly matches mid to long distance race paces.
Oh, so we were essentially building the engine to tolerate the specific demands of race day.
Precisely.
How does the physiology differ from the polarized approach, though?
It comes down to lactate clearance and submaximal economy.
Okay.
When you run in zone 2, your body starts producing lactate. And a lot of people think lactate is just this waste product that makes your legs burn. But it's actually a vital fuel source.
Wait, really? Fuel?
Yeah. The problem is, your body just has to learn how to shuttle that fuel into the mitochondria to actually be burned.
Oh, meaning your body has to learn to tolerate that miserable burning sensation for a long time without forcing you to slow down.
Exactly. By spending 20 to 25% of your week in zone 2, you are actively training your cellular machinery to clear and consume lactate efficiently at a moderately hard pace.
That's fascinating.
You're really building structural resilience in your muscles and tendons.
So what's the fatigue cost here? Because since we're spending a quarter of our time in that gray zone, the systemic fatigue has to be higher than the polarized model, right?
Yeah, systemic fatigue in the pyramidal model is generally moderate.
Moderate.
You are doing far less all-out sprinting, which definitely saves your nervous system, but you are doing a lot more of that grinding muscular endurance work, so your legs will feel heavy a lot more often.
Got it. So who fits this pyramidal model best?
It's the ideal choice for mid to high volume multi-sport athletes.
Like triathletes.
Exactly. Think about a hybrid athlete balancing swimming, cycling, and running. It's also the absolute gold standard for building a winter base.
Oh, I see.
You spend months in the pyramidal model building your muscular endurance and lactate clearance, and then as race day actually approaches, you drop the zone 2 work and shift into a polarized model to sharpen your VO2 max.
So you build the engine with the pyramidal model and then tune it up with the polarized model. I really like that.
Yeah, it's a great progression.
But I have to bring this back to reality for a really large segment of our audience.
Sure.
What if our listener is a parent with a demanding job, a commute, and maybe they only have like 4 hours a week to train?
Right.
Because telling someone with only 4 hours a week to spend 80% of that precious time at a super slow conversational pace feels like a massive waste of time.
And you're spot on. The traditional 80-20 rules of endurance training really begin to fracture when time is severely restricted.
So if you only have a handful of hours, you kind of have to break the rules.
You do.
And this is where the threshold model enters the picture. Let me explain this one because it completely flips the script for busy, time-crunched people.
Yeah, it's totally different.
Let's look at the numbers because they are a radical departure from everything we just discussed. In the threshold model, Zone 1 drops down to anywhere between 35 and 55%.
Yep.
Zone 2, that comfortably hard threshold pace, skyrockets to 35 to 50%. And Zone 3 is virtually non-existent, sitting at just 0 to 10%.
Right.
You are basically spending up to half your training time going comfortably hard. You're choosing to live in the gray zone on purpose.
Exactly. You are intentionally using the gray zone as a blunt instrument.
Wow.
Look, if you only have 45 minutes to work out before you have to get the kids to school, jogging at a conversational pace just won't provide enough stress to trigger any meaningful cardiovascular adaptation.
So you have to push it.
Right. The primary benefit of the threshold model is that it gives you the absolute best bang for your buck for low-volume weeks.
But there has to be a catch. Because we literally just spent the first 10 minutes explaining why living in the gray zone ruins your progress.
And the catch is pretty severe, honestly.
Yeah.
Systemic fatigue in the threshold model is very high. The Steve-Lanau study, highlighted in our sources, proves that staying in this model long-term is basically a physiological disaster.
Jeez. Why does it break you down so fast?
Because of the continuous central nervous system stress. When half your weekly volume is spent just marinating in blood lactate and elevated cortisol, your body never enters a full repair cycle.
So you never recover.
Right. The inflammation never subsides. The athletes in the Steve-Lanau study who sustained high volumes of this threshold training suffered from clinical burnout and overtraining symptoms within just 2 to 3 weeks.
Wait, 2 to 3 weeks until you're completely fried?
Yep.
That is an insanely tightrope to walk.
It is a highly specialized tool for a specific lifestyle constraint, not a foundational philosophy.
Got it.
The ideal fit is strictly for time-crunched athletes training less than 5 hours a week. If your schedule opens up and you try to apply the threshold model to an 8-hour training week, your body will literally break.
Okay, so the path forward is becoming a lot clearer. Polarized to maximize your speed, pyramidal to build your base, and threshold only if you are severely strapped for time.
Exactly.
But once our listener actually picks a model, how do they practically track it? Because the SenseAI source reveals this hidden pitfall that causes athletes to completely mislabel their own training.
Yeah, this is huge. The SenseAI guide calls this the methodology trap.
Okay.
It basically comes down to a fundamental disconnect between your session goal and your time in zone.
Break those two concepts down for me because they sound similar.
Sure. Session goal is what you intended to do when you laced up your shoes. It's sort of the headline of the workout.
Okay.
Time in zone is what your smartwatch or heart rate monitor actually recorded second by second.
Oh, let me refine an analogy here.
Go for it.
Think about a work meeting that is blocked off for 60 minutes on your calendar. Your intention for the meeting, the session goal, is a highly stressful, intense negotiation.
Right.
And for 15 minutes, right in the middle of that room, people are yelling and it's incredibly tense. But the first 20 minutes was just waiting for people to log on and chatting about the weather. And the last 25 minutes was a really relaxed debrief.
Exactly.
When you leave, you mentally categorize that entire hour as a stressful encounter. But mathematically, your heart rate was really only elevated for 25% of the time.
That maps perfectly onto how athletes analyze their data.
Yeah.
Consider an athlete who goes out for a 60-minute interval session. They do 5 brutal, all-out sprints. In their training app, they proudly log a Polarized Zone 3 session because the sprints were the entire purpose of the workout.
Right, the intense negotiation from the analogy.
But when you actually look at the raw heart rate data, the time in zone, the whole picture changes. They had a 20-minute easy warm-up. They had a 15-minute easy cool-down. And between each sprint, they jogged very slowly for 3 minutes just to recover.
Oh, no.
Yeah. The algorithm, calculating their weekly volume, looks at that 60-minute session and logs a huge chunk of it in Zone 1, and a significant portion in Zone 2 as their heart rate gradually fell after each sprint.
Oh, wow. So their execution drift completely skews their data.
Completely.
They think they just completed a polarized week with almost 0 Zone 2 time, but their smartwatch says they actually just completed a pyramidal week because of all the warm-ups and recovery periods.
Yes. The trop is comparing your psychological intentions to your actual physiological data. The two rarely match.
That's wild.
This is exactly why self-coached athletes often fail to execute the polarized model. They just don't realize how much incidental Zone 2 time they are accumulating.
So what's the actionable advice for the listener to avoid this trap?
Uncompromising discipline.
Okay.
If a model dictates that an easy day should be easy, you cannot let your ego push your pace when someone passes you on the trail.
Right, checking the ego at the door.
Exactly. Keep the easy days painfully easy and keep the hard days agonizingly hard. Do not let your warm-ups creep into Zone 2.
The ultimate takeaway here is that your training model really must adapt to your life and your specific constraints.
Absolutely.
Choose the pyramidal model for base building and multisport. Choose the polarized model for peaking before a race, or if you have a high-volume schedule. And deploy the threshold model only if you are severely time-crunched.
Spot on. Before we wrap up, though, I want to introduce a final concept from the Varela Sands meta-analysis that honestly challenges everything we've just built.
Wait, really?
Yeah, they discuss the concept of dynamic lines.
Dynamic lines. Okay, we've spent this entire time treating Zone 1, 2, and 3 as these rigid, static boxes. Like, if my heart rate is 140, I'm in Zone 1. Are you saying those boundaries move?
We treat them like fixed biological laws, but they aren't.
Oh.
Think about the reality of your daily life. Let's say you slept terribly last night. You're carrying massive stress from a fight with your boss, and you skipped lunch.
Basically a normal Tuesday for a lot of people.
Right. Well, because of that systemic load, a pace that was easy and conversational for you on Tuesday might actually push your struggling body straight into the comfortably hard gray zone by Friday.
Wow.
Your biology just changes every single day.
That completely reframes the conversation. It forces you to ask yourself, are you training to a static spreadsheet, or are you actually listening to your dynamic body?
Exactly.
If you just blindly follow the heart rate numbers on your wrist, regardless of your life stress, you might literally be engineering your own burnout.
The body is a biological organism, right? Not a mechanical engine.
Yeah.
The models give us a really good map, but you still have to navigate the terrain.
Yeah, there is no perfect mathematical formula to show you exactly how hard to push today. It requires constant attention, adaptation, and an understanding of the murky, beautiful reality of human physiology.
Well said.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into endurance training. Keep listening to your body, stay out of the gray zone unless you intentionally mean to be there, and we'll catch you next time.